Paton has a party. Every year on Uncle Paton's birthday, Grandma Bone and her sisters took a short holiday. They hated having to buy presents or indulge in any nonsensical celebrations, as Grandma put it. This year, Uncle Paton's birthday was on the first of half-day term. Macy decided that before Charlie and his uncle set off for the coast, Paton should have a real party for a change. "We've never had a proper party here before," she said, "but Charlie's new friends have got very, very interesting parents. We really ought to get to know them." Invitations were set out, and surprisingly, everyone accepted, even the judge. The party was kept secret from Grandma Bone in case she tried to put a stop to it. Macy managed to hide the champagne under a sack in the larder, and the birthday cake was put in a crate marked cauliflower. Grandma Bone hated cauliflower, so she kept well away from it. On the morning before the party, Charlie carried his grandma's things downstairs. Grandma Bone was right behind him when he crossed the hall to the front door. There was a bang and the sound of breaking glass. Charlie dropped the case and looked round. "Oh dear," said Grandma Bone. "That picture's broken again, and Paton's just had a new glass put in." The photo of Henry and his family lay on the floor. The glass in the frame had smashed to 1,000 pieces. Had Grandma Bone knocked it down on purpose? She had a nasty smile on her face. "Well, it's good riddance to him," she said, pushing the frame with the toe of her boot. Charlie didn't say a word. If she only knew the truth, he thought. Once she was out of the house, everyone breathed a sigh of relief. "To work!" cried Macy. "Let's make this old house smart as a palace." At 7 o'clock, their work complete, Macy, Paton, Charlie, and his mothers waited for their guests to arrive. Tancred and his parents came first. As soon as the Torsons walked through the door, all the candles flickered violently, and a few went out. "Sorry," boomed Mr. Torson. "We'll try to keep the breezes to ourselves." Macy was delighted. "How clever," she said. "We could do with a bit of fresh air in here." Benjamin and the detectives came next, and they were quickly followed by Fidelio and the singing guns, and Gabriel and his parents. Mr. Silk wrote murder mysteries, and when he heard that Mr. and Mrs. Brown were private detectives, he whipped out his notebook and was soon in deep conversation with Mr. Brown. The Onimuses and the Flame Cats and the Vertigos arrived at the same time. Olivia's father was a famous film director and immediately wanted to know if Mr. Onimus had considered a career in movies. "I'm casting The Wind and the Willows right now," he said. "I'll consider it," said Mr. Onimus. By 8 o'clock, the party was in full swing. Charlie thought everyone had arrived, but Paton told them that there was one more guest to come. A few minutes later, the bell rang. Charlie opened the front door and found Cook on the doorstep. "Pearls told me everything. It's a happy ending for Henry after all." "And Mrs. Blore," said Charlie. He took Cook into the kitchen where Gabriel Silk was helping serve drinks. "There's just one thing I'd like to know," said Cook, sipping her glass of wine. "Where did Dorothy find that marble?" "Oh, I gave it to her," said Gabriel. Charlie was surprised to hear this. "Well, well," said Cook. "And where did you find it?" "Mr. Pilgrim gave it to me," said Gabriel. "I think he knew I would give it to Mrs. Blore. She was always in the tower listening to his music." "Of course," Cook nodded slowly. "Mr. Pilgrim is a mysterious man." "Where do you think Mrs. Blore's is now?" asked Charlie. "She'll be in Paris, just as she always intended. She'll have gotten herself a nice little apartment, and soon she'll be giving violin lessons. Maybe she'll join an orchestra. Who knows? She'll be playing her violin again, and that's all she ever wanted. And she'll be safe. Cook looked at Gabriel. Thank you, Gabriel. There was a sudden loud bang on the front door. It came again. Someone wasn't even bothering to ring the bell. Bang, bang, bang. Whoever, said Paton. Charlie followed his uncle to the front door. Grandma Bones stood on the top step with her 3 sisters behind her. What's going on here? She demanded. We're having a party, said Paton coolly. What are you doing here? I forgot my keys, snapped Grandma Bone. How dare you have a party in my house? Stop it this minute. Stop it, said Lucretia. Everybody out, said Eustacia. You can't have a party without our permission, said Venetia. Shut up, said Paton. I can have a party. In case you've forgotten, it's half my house. What's the trouble, Paton? Mr. Torson had come to see what the fuss was about. No trouble, said Paton. Nothing I can't handle. Whether Paton could handle it or not was beside the point. Mr. Torson took one look at the 4 angry sisters, puffed his cheeks, and blew them down the steps clean across the street. Grandma Bone nearly missed being hit by a bus. Charlie watched in awe and astonishment as the U-Beam sisters picked themselves up, patted their hair, brushed their muddy clothes, shook their fists at Paton and Mr. Torson, and with a loud thunder crack and a sudden cloud burst, sent them scurrying away down the street, shrieking and cursing. We'll pay for that, Paton murmured. But not tonight, said Charlie. As soon as the 4 sisters were well and truly gone, Olivia Vertigo said, Let's dance! Yes, a dance, said Fidelio. Before anyone could stop them, they moved the table in the dining room, rolled up the rug. Emma put on some music on the CD player, and all 3 of them began to dance around the table. The other boys hanged back at first, but then Macy grabbed the judge around the waist and whirled him onto the dance floor. After that, no one could resist the music. Soon the usually cold and cheerless room was full of swaying, bobbing figures. Uncle Paton even managed to persuade Miss Ingledew onto the floor. The room was crowded. They had to dance very close. Charlie noted that Mrs. Ingledew didn't seem to mind a bit. He couldn't see his mother in the room, so he went to find her. She was sitting in the kitchen, staring through the window. Little flakes of snow were drifting down from the sky, but Charlie knew his mother didn't see them. Dad will come back, Charlie said quietly. When Mrs. Bone turned to him, she didn't look sad at all. In fact, she was smiling. You know, Charlie, I'm beginning to believe you, she said. After what happened to Henry, I can believe almost anything.